You know what stops most people from ever creating the life they truly want? It's not a lack of talent, it's not intelligence, and it's not opportunity. It's the size of their vision. They don't think big enough. They shrink their dreams to fit their current circumstances instead of expanding their vision to create a greater life. And I want you to hear me right now. Your life will never grow bigger than your mindset. Every single day, either conditioning yourself to stay small or pushing yourself to think bigger. And the scary part is most people don't even realize it. They settle, they accept good enough. They convince themselves that maybe someday is enough. And that's exactly why they feel stuck. But the truth is you weren't born to live a life of limitations. You were born with a capacity for growth, for greatness, contribution. So tonight I'm asking you to open your mind, suspend the doubts, put aside the excuses, because if you stay with me through this message, you're going to discover how to expand your thinking every single day. And when your thinking expands, your life expands. By the end, you'll have the tools to break free from smallness, to build unstoppable momentum, to step into a greater life than you've ever imagined. But you have to lean in. You have to decide right now that you won't just hear these words. You'll let them shift you, challenge you, and ignite you. Because this is not just another talk. This is an invitation to transform the way you think. And if you change the way you think, you can change your entire destiny. When you look at the life you're living right now, I want you to ask yourself a simple question. Am I thinking too small? Most people don't realize this, but the quality of their life is directly connected to the size of their vision. You cannot live a life of greatness while thinking in terms of limitations. It's like trying to fit a jet engine into a bicycle frame. It doesn't work. The reason so many feel unfulfilled, stuck, or trapped is because they've lowered their vision to match their fears instead of raising their standards to match their true potential. Small thinking is a prison. It keeps you safe, comfortable, and predictable, but it also keeps you caged. And the cage is invisible. That's why it's so dangerous. It shows up in statements like, I can't do that, or I'll try someday, or that's just not for me. And you begin to believe these lies until they become your reality. But what's really happening? You're handing your life over to limitations. You're building walls around yourself brick by brick until one day you wake up realizing the walls are too high and you don't even remember how to climb anymore. Now, let me be clear, thinking bigger is not about fantasizing or daydreaming without action. It's about expanding the way you see yourself, your opportunities, and your future. If you believe you're only capable of running a mile, you'll never attempt 5. If you believe you can only earn a certain amount, you'll never even look for opportunities that could multiply your income. If you believe you're unworthy of love, you'll settle for relationships that drain you instead of elevate you. Thinking bigger every day forces you to challenge the very limits you've been living with, and it opens doors you never even knew were there. Seen it again and again. Someone grows up in an environment where the standard is just survival, just getting by. They look around and everyone they know is struggling, complaining, living paycheck to paycheck. And because that's all they see, they start to think that's all that's possible. But when that same person gets exposed to someone who's thriving, building, creating, suddenly a new thought sneaks in. Maybe I can too. That's the power of thinking bigger. It shifts from this is the way it is to what if there's more? And that question alone can transform your destiny. The challenge is our minds are wired to protect us. Fear whispers, stay small, stay safe, don't risk. And the world around us often reinforces that. People will tell you not to get your hopes up, not to dream too big, not to be unrealistic. Why? Because your bigger thinking exposes their smaller thinking. The moment you raise your vision, you disrupt their comfort. But here's the truth. Playing small never protects you. It only guarantees regret. Playing small is the fastest way to end up at the end of your life wondering, what if I had gone for it? If I had believed more? So how do you break free from that prison of small thinking? You start by raising your expectations. Decide that good enough is no longer good enough. Decide that maybe someday is not a strategy. Decide that you will no longer settle for anything less than the life you're capable of creating. That shift in decision is the beginning of a new identity. Because once you raise your standards, your brain will begin to search for ways to meet them. It's like flipping a switch inside you that says, no more smallness. From now on, I live in expansion. And don't underestimate the daily power of this shift. Thinking bigger isn't just about massive goals. It's about the little moments where you challenge yourself. It's when you wake up in the morning and instead of saying, how do I just get through today? You ask, how do I grow today? It's when you stop asking, what's the least I can do? And you start asking, what's the most I'm capable of? It's when you walk into a situation and instead of shrinking, you expand. Because life will always meet you at the level of your expectations. I want you to imagine your life 10 years from now if you never break free from small thinking. What do you see? The same frustrations, the same struggles, the same limitations. That's the cost of staying small. Imagine if you started thinking bigger every single day, just a little more than yesterday. Imagine where that momentum would take you. New opportunities, new relationships, new levels of freedom. That's the reward of living beyond your limits. The moment you stop playing small and start thinking bigger, everything changes. Take a moment and think about the people you spend the most time with, the conversations you're surrounded by, the energy you allow into your life every single day. You realize it or not, that environment is shaping you. It's either lifting you higher or it's dragging you down. It's either feeding your vision or slowly starving it. The truth is, you can't get bigger every day while living in a small environment. Your surroundings are like soil and you are the seed. If the soil is dry, toxic, and lifeless, even the strongest seed won't grow. But if the soil is rich, nourishing, full of possibility, that seed can grow into something extraordinary. Now, most people underestimate just how much their environment influences them. You can have the biggest dream, the clearest goal. If every day you're surrounded by people who doubt, who complain, who live in fear, eventually that energy becomes your normal. And once it becomes normal, you stop noticing it. You accept it as just the way life is. But that's the danger. Because if your circle is small-minded, if your conversations are about gossip instead of growth, if your energy is always drained instead of expanded, you'll find yourself shrinking without even realizing it. Think about it. Have you ever shared an idea, something exciting, something that could change your life, only to have someone dismiss it, laugh at it, or tell you why it won't work? That's the weight of small environments. That's how dreams get killed before they ever take root. On the other hand, have you ever been in a room where people were dreaming big, creating, pushing boundaries? Suddenly, your own vision starts to expand. You begin to believe more, to reach higher, to see possibilities you didn't see before. That's the power of expansive energy. It doesn't just encourage you, it transforms you. You've got to take a hard look at who and what you're surrounding yourself with. Because if you're serious about creating a greater life, you can't afford to let small energy dominate your world. And sometimes that means making difficult choices. It might mean stepping away from relationships that keep you stuck in old patterns. It might mean spending less time with people who only remind you of your past and more time with people who push you toward your future. It might mean turning off the noise, the media, the negativity, the distractions, and replacing it with voices that inspire, challenge, and expand you. And here's the key. It's not about cutting everyone out of your life. It's about intentionally designing an environment that feeds your vision. Surround yourself with people who see the best in you, even when you don't see it yourself. People who challenge you, not because they doubt you, but because they know you're capable of more. People who clap when you win, also push you when you're lazy. Those are the people who will elevate your life. It's the same with what you consume mentally and emotionally. What books are you reading? What conversations are you engaging in? What content are you watching, listening to, and absorbing every day? Because that becomes part of your environment too. Every voice you allow into your mind is either reinforcing small thinking or expanding it. If you're constantly feeding yourself doubt, fear, and limitation, then don't be surprised when your vision feels heavy. But if you feed yourself possibilities, strategies, stories of resilience, then your mind begins to believe in more. Sometimes you don't need to change everything at once. You just need to shift the balance. Spend more time with people who inspire you and less time with those who drain you. Listen to voices of growth more than voices of fear. Choose conversations that expand your world instead of shrinking it. Watch what happens. Your standards rise, your vision grows, your confidence strengthens. That's not an accident. It's the law of environment. I've seen people transform their lives simply by changing the rooms they walk into. The moment they start surrounding themselves with builders, creators, everything shifts. Their language changes. Their energy changes. Their goals expand. Why? Because we are designed to mirror the energy around us. If the energy around you is small, you'll unconsciously limit yourself. But if the energy around you is expansive, you'll start thinking, if they can, I can too. That's the seed of transformation. Here's the beautiful thing. Once you begin to live with expansive energy, you don't just benefit from it, you become it. You start to be that voice of possibility for others. You become the person in the room who challenges, who lifts, who expands. That's when your growth multiplies, because now you're not just creating a greater life for yourself. You're creating it for everyone who crosses your path. If you truly want to create a greater life, you must choose an environment that forces you to grow, not one that keeps you the same. A vision without action is nothing more than a wish. You can dream of building a greater life. You can imagine the possibilities. You can write down goals that sound incredible. But if you don't back them up with consistent action, nothing changes. That's why turning vision into daily rituals is non-negotiable. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. And if your habits don't align with your vision, you'll always end up frustrated, wondering why your life doesn't match your potential. Most people misunderstand what it means to think big. They believe it's about having this huge goal out there in the distance and waiting for the perfect moment to chase it. But the truth is, big thinking only matters when it gets translated into small, repeatable actions. Every dream that's ever been achieved was built piece by piece, moment by moment, day by day. A great life doesn't just show up one morning. It's constructed brick by brick through the rituals you commit to. Think about it. Your rituals are the invisible architects of your destiny. The way you start your morning sets the tone for your day. The way you manage your energy, your focus, your emotions throughout the day shapes the results you produce. The way you close out your evening determines whether you go to sleep with progress or with regret. These little choices add up, and over time, they compound into either a powerful force of growth or a silent prison of stagnation. But here's the problem. Most people's rituals don't serve their vision. They say they want health, but their daily rituals are eating whatever's convenient and skipping exercise. They say they want wealth, but their daily rituals are overspending and procrastinating. They say they want love, but their rituals are complaining instead of connecting. And then they wonder why they're not living the life they imagine. The truth is simple. Your results are a reflection of your rituals. So if you want to create a greater life, you've got to attach your vision to your daily behaviors. If your vision is to have energy, what rituals support that? Maybe it's hydrating first thing in the morning, moving your body, feeding yourself with foods that give you life instead of taking it away. If your vision is financial freedom, what rituals support that? Maybe it's setting aside time each day to learn about money, tracking your spending, investing, building something that multiplies. If your vision is to have meaningful relationships, what rituals support that? Maybe it's making time to listen deeply, to give without expecting, to be fully present. Don't confuse rituals with random effort. Random effort is doing something big every now and then, getting motivated for a week, and then crashing back into old patterns. Rituals are non-negotiable. They're automatic. They're what you do whether you feel like it or not, because they're aligned with who you've decided to become. That's the difference between dabbling in growth and committing to transformation. And here's something powerful. Once you create the right rituals, discipline stops feeling like punishment. People think discipline is restriction, but it's not. Discipline is freedom. When your rituals are in alignment with your vision, you don't have to fight yourself every day. You don't have to constantly rely on willpower. You simply live in a rhythm that produces growth automatically. Just like brushing your teeth isn't an act of willpower, it's just something you do. Your growth rituals become a part of you. This is where momentum is born. You don't need to make giant leaps every single day. You just need to be consistent with small steps that align with your bigger vision. Small steps compound. One page read every day turns into dozens of books over the years. Extra rep at the gym turns into strength you didn't know you had. One meaningful conversation each day turns into deep, lasting relationships. The key isn't speed, it's consistency. Don't underestimate the emotional shift that happens when you live this way. When your rituals match your vision, you begin to trust yourself. You build confidence not by talking about what you're going to do, but by proving it to yourself daily. Every ritual completed is a vote for the person you're becoming, and the more you cast those votes, the stronger your identity becomes. Eventually, it's no longer, I'm trying to be successful. It's, I am the kind of person who creates success. If you want a greater life, stop waiting for a big break. Stop waiting for motivation to strike. Stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. Start building rituals today that reflect the life you want tomorrow. Fear is the single greatest thief of human potential. Every person has moments where they feel the urge to dream bigger, to take a bold step after something they've never done before. And just as that spark ignites, fear whispers in their ear, what if you fail? What if people laugh at you? What if you're not enough? That voice convinces so many to stay where they are, to play it safe, to keep their lives predictable. But the truth is nothing extraordinary has ever been created from a place of safety. Every breakthrough you'll ever experience will require courage. Thinking bigger isn't enough. You have to live with courageous execution. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means moving forward even while fear is present. If you wait for fear to disappear before you act, you'll be waiting your whole life. Courage is doing it anyway. Courage is picking up the phone when you're nervous, speaking your truth when your voice shakes, taking the leap when the outcome is uncertain. That's how you grow. That's how you transform possibility into reality. Fear will always be there, but courage is the decision to no longer let it drive. So many people live their lives in someday. Someday I'll start that business. Someday I'll get in shape. Someday I'll write that book. Someday I'll have that conversation. But someday is just fear dressed up as procrastination. Someday is the comfort zone's favorite word. And the longer you live in someday, the further you drift from your true potential. The only way to break that pattern is to act, not later, but now. Every bold action you take is like a declaration to yourself, I refuse to let fear win. The beautiful thing is, courage is contagious. When you take that first step into the unknown, even if you stumble, even if you don't get it perfect, something shifts inside you. You prove to yourself that you can survive discomfort, you can push through uncertainty, you can grow through challenges. And once you've done it once, the next step feels easier, and then the next, and soon you've built a pattern of courageous execution. Confidence doesn't come from waiting until you feel ready. It comes from acting when you're not. But let's be real, living with courage will bring resistance. People around you may question why you're doing things differently. They may tell you you're crazy, that you're being reckless, that you should slow down. Not because they don't care, because your courage makes them confront their own fear. When you step out of the box, you show them it's possible, and that can make them uncomfortable. But you cannot dim your light to make others feel safe. If you want to create a greater life, you have to accept that not everyone will understand your path. That's okay. Your job is not to be understood by everyone. It's to live the life you're called to live. And here's something powerful. Most of the time, the fear you feel isn't even real. It's a story. It's your mind projecting a worst case scenario that rarely ever happens. We exaggerate the pain of failure in our minds while minimizing the cost of inaction. But failure is rarely final. Failure is feedback. It's the path to wisdom, to resilience, to strength. Inaction, on the other hand, guarantees regret. You can recover from failure, but regret will haunt you forever. So when you think about living courageously, remember this. Your vision means nothing if you're not willing to act on it. You can surround yourself with expansive energy. You can build the right rituals, but at some point, you're going to hit that wall where fear shows up and tries to shrink you back down. That's the moment of truth. That's when you decide who you are. Are you someone who lets fear dictate your life? Or are you someone who steps forward anyway? You don't need to have it all figured out before you move. You don't need certainty before you take action. Certainty comes after, never before. You act, you learn, you adjust, you grow. That's the cycle. Courage isn't about perfection, it's about motion. Even a small step taken in fear is infinitely more powerful than a giant step never taken because you hesitated. If you want to create a greater life, you must stop waiting for permission, stop waiting for the perfect moment, start living with courageous execution.